Back. Welcome to Print Your Games, the podcast about what's new and awesome in 3D printing for gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram, and I'm joined by
Kristen Sowards, also known as Seventh Mastery.
Kristen. At this point in time, I think Elgu's just trying to troll us.
It kind of feels that way. It really does.
Honestly, if you work for Elgu and you're listening to this podcast, please reach out to us so that we can just confirm that you're messing with us on purpose. Because we were joking that last week, first the Mars 3 Max was coming out, and then like a very next week later, 2 new Elgu printers were announced with the Saturn 4, the Saturn 4 Ultra. And then this week, 2 more freaking Elgu printers gets announced.
There's more. I actually begin to wonder if it's like a social experiment where they're like actually seeing that they can fatigue us by just releasing new products to talk about over and over again.
Yeah, people complain about like the iPhone being like launched too frequently, and here Elgu is like announcing a new product a week.
So is this like 5 printers in like less than a month?
Yes. There's the new Neptune line, there's the new Saturn line, and then there's the Mars line with 2 printers each. So we talked about the Saturn 3 and the Saturn 3 Ultra. This does not include the Mars 3 Max or the Mars 4 Max. I forget which one it is. Then there's the Neptune 4, the Neptune 4 Pro, which we talked about last week. So the big difference between those printers is now that these are adopting that new, very ultra fast printing methods that we've seen with Anycubic with their 12K printer that beat Elgu to the punch a bit with the ACF film. And I do believe that ACF film is going to be a huge game changer. You're probably going to want to switch over to that stuff, assuming that it works as great as everybody says it does. And then the Mars 4 series being updated with ACF film and with an ultra version of it. To kind of fill in that small printer range. So all of the Elgu printers are being updated, all 3 of their main lines with new printers, and all of it being, they print real fast now. And boy, I could have used it this week. I really could have used some of these ultra fast printers.
Gee, why would that be?
Oh my goodness. So
if you haven't been paying
hundreds
attention,
of models done.
Yeah.
So the stats. Let's just do the fun stat time. Elgu Mars 4 Ultra, 9K resolution on a small screen, a 7-inch 9K mono LCD. That thing has got 70 microns of resolution, so super detailed print. The other thing that's they're touting the Wi-Fi connection again. Not that I would ever trust it. Speed printing with the ACF film, just like the Saturn 4 Ultra that we talked about, or Saturn 3 Ultra. Here I am inventing new Saturns. Wait for next month.
That's what I'd say. You're going to say it as an accident, and then it's going to be real in a week.
Yeah, it's fun times. And the other thing that we're starting to see is they're talking about the GOO open source format across their printers. What is that? I do not know. But educated guess is telling me that this is probably their reaction to the drama that happened with the G2.
Yeah, that was my understanding. Is it just them basically saying, okay, we're going to make sure everybody can put it on their slicers. Right. That's how I read that.
An open source format for slicing printers. If everybody gets on board with a common open source format, that's good for the industry as a whole. We do not want format wars and proprietary formats and people like trying to leverage patent stuff, slowing this industry down. That would just be the worst, the absolute worst. Saturn 3 Ultra and Mars 4 Ultra will no longer be ball joint style for leveling, says C Catlet. So that's good, because I have been messing with an Anycubic Mono 4K, which has the screw method for leveling, and yep, it's actually, I do see why people prefer that method. It is very hard to knock that thing out of level. It's nice and rock solid when you get it out, and I like it. I like it a lot. It's not quite auto leveling itself that we're seeing with the Anycubic 12K. and here Herberto is trolling us.
Yes, it's pretty good.
The Elgu Beetlejuice,
Beetlejuice,
40K,
yeah,
big as a house, uses the sun as a UV source, therefore better. Cthulhu Systems board needs 50K of resin to start printing, and I have gone through that much resin this week. So
nice. You pulled ahead. You pulled ahead of me for the year.
Yeah. So, also added to the announcements from Elgu is Fecta laser engraver cutter. So their laser engraver cutter coming out. It is your standard 20-watt open backed non-ventilated laser cutter that some people love and other people scream, stay away, it'll burn your house down and blind you.
Yeah, we're kind of worried about that, right? That doesn't have an enclosure.
It does not have an enclosure. I do not know anything about lasers enough to give an educated opinion on that at all. So do your homework if you're going to get into laser cutting. And then next is the Mars Mate Air Purifier. This thing, I was confused at first because it looks like it's just a little stubby air purifier. And also, most of Elgu's printers have air purifiers built in these days. So what's going on?
It looks like the ones I got, but I guess, is it bigger?
That's when I finally found this picture. I was looking for banana. It's huge.
Oh, wow.
It's as big as a Saturn. It's got a freaking charcoal thing you need to put in with a handle. And it's got a hose attachment that it attaches to the enclosures using the little ducts that's on the backs of these things. And yeah, first, it looks like an industrial air purifier. I do not understand why this thing exists. I understand air purification, good. But it sure is big. And they have these built into the printers already, so I'm not entirely sure who needs this, except for
print farms, maybe?
It looks like it plugs into everything because they've been building that adapter into all their stuff. I do not see that it's available for multiple printers, because that would be my assumption, is just like you hook one of these up to like 6 printers or something if you're running a print farm, but they only show it being used with one printer at a time. So I'm very confused about this product. But hey, air purification, good.
Yeah, I mean, better than not.
Yeah,
but it seems a bit excessive. The car battery size carbon.
Yeah. It's hose fed. This isn't like the little ones where it just like you put it in the case and it just sucks in the air around it. This is hose fed. This is like a proper air purification system that we'd see hooked up with, say, an enclosed laser cutter.
So when I first got those, I didn't understand like they were 2 of them to like alternate charging, right?
Oh yeah. You don't need to just like shotgun both of them at once.
But I was putting in both of their stuff. And so I wouldn't do a print job until I had them both charged. But I was like, after a while, I was like, oh, these are so you can swap charging. Yeah, that was adorable.
We've got some recommendations in chat from Herberto that says Maker's Muse has a very good video on the safety of low-cost laser cutters. Maker's Muse is a wonderful channel if you're into any sort of DIY stuff, especially 3D printing. And yes, they also do laser cutting stuff. So I would recommend their channel, period. Also, like, they're very good at the math of perfecting FDM printing, and they've got so many custom 3D print tests, like the Torture Castle, that will dial your printer into perfection.
Torture Castle.
Yeah. So more printers. I don't want to go into this because there's really not much more said that just isn't last week's episode, and then add but smaller
or slightly lower resolution for a lower price point, or I mean, it's getting to the point where they're all having some pretty awesome features. I think it's gonna be a while until we see one that beats that Anycubic feature density. But they're really great. It would probably be what I would say. And if you could afford it, I would probably just skip to the larger format at this point, even to start. But especially if you can afford with all the fancy auto leveling stuff.
Mm-hmm. Elgu ain't got no auto leveling. That's all Anycubic.
I'll give it a week.
Yeah.
I mean,
on other news related to stuff we talked about last week, Mantic Vault, which we told you, Mantic Games, big wargaming company, like not Warhammer, but definitely in contention for maybe the second biggest, has announced that like they're doing 3D printing and stuff. Well, they've posted an update about their 3D printing with what their plans are for the future now that it has gone off, and evidently they're very happy with the success of the program. I know that a lot of people have jumped on board for this, but there were some issues that I noticed when I was dealing with it, that their files weren't pre-supported, which is very weird to see in a monthly program. So now they've announced, yes, files will be pre-supported from now on. That's great news. I figured
even
that they
though
would jump
neither
on
of us
that.
ever used them, but
Oh,
you did.
Asterisk.
You did.
We're going to be talking about that soon.
I see. Interesting.
And then something I did not expect at all. That's the wrong thing. I need to share the other thing.
A giant air filter. Wait, we already did that.
Giant air filter. Mantic is releasing giant air filters. Attach a hose to your Kings of War army. Bad luck sucked right off those dice.
Oh, is that a commercial? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, they are offering merchant tiers. Mantic Games, who makes their own minis and sells them in stores, is going to be offering a commercial license. I did not expect this in any reality. Now, there is
they're almost saying there's a demand where they could actually have other people still sell their stuff and still make all the money. If also other companies had that same thought.
Also, as somebody who was like very big into Mantic, there's a problem with the Mantic supply line. If you do not live in Europe, if you live in the US, like it sometimes gets hard to get the stuff reliably over here. I know that that's something they've been working very diligently to solve, but with global shipping as it is, and also they're a small company trying to ship stuff overseas, it's weird. It's definitely weird, and you cannot guarantee that you can get your models in the United States from your local retailers, and which is causing strife if you're a local retailer, and a lot of local retailers, and not just with Mantic, but with a lot of suppliers, that it's becoming difficult for the small shops to stock product. It is causing strife with the stores because people are resorting to buying direct in order to get their stuff on time and reliably, or through online retailers, which then is causing strain with the relationship between the retailers and the distributors. A local store that I was dealing with was expressing the same stuff about Asmodee, the biggest board game company going, and another comic shop like screaming about how the comic industry has fractured so much that it's becoming almost impossible for small stores to keep their stock regular, because what has happened is all of these, there were very few big middleman distributors in the gaming industry, and companies would ship their stuff to the distributors, and distributors would send that stuff out to all the little stores. The distributors start shutting down, also start buying each other up. Yay capitalism. That's lovely capitalism at work there. And then suddenly you had to start ordering from 5 or 6 different places to get your stuff. And the minimum orders to get free shipping is usually like $500 at most of these places. And which is fine if you're ordering from Diamond and you're getting your entire comic book line for the weekend, and also like a big giant box of action figures and a few board games.
Right.
But now if you're just getting just DC comics and the action figures from over here and the board games from over there, suddenly your minimum order is $2,000, $2,500 in order to qualify for that free shipping. And without that free shipping, the margins to be able to compete in this industry
get really tight.
Yes, get really, really tight. So that means that if you're small, it becomes harder and harder and harder to even offer things at retail price, much less
customers
with Amazon.
Customers are expecting that discount too. So
and then customers are coming to your store and not able to find your product. You can't disappoint your customers too many times, because then they just learn that they can't find what they want from you. which pushes them further away, which makes the problem worse when they start ordering online and not coming into your store. It's a bad time all around.
I have lived this one.
Yeah. So, but that's why the Mantic stuff is interesting, because it's commercial licenses with an asterisk.
Oh.
It is indeed a commercial license that you can apply for to sell their 3D prints in your store. In your store. And you have to be a Mantic store, as in have a partnership agreement with Mantic to sell physical product at a physical location. This is a commercial license for game stores, not for Etsy resellers.
Oh, interesting. I did not catch that.
This is an interesting take on things, and we're seeing more and more 3D companies wanting to, like, coming up with their own games, wanting to enter the space. We're seeing stuff like Broken Anvil and Titan Forge putting a lot more stuff out there. Maybe this is a model. Let's see how it works, because like the game stores are complaining. They definitely are complaining about, like, hey, like we see in some game stores ban 3D minis in their store because they can't sell them. So why should they let you play with them in their store? Now, I'm seeing a lot more on the opposite side, but this might be a method to smooth over relations. I kind of want to pay attention to see how this is adopted and how it works, because you do not want to make the game stores in America, at least, are where a lot of game groups are organized around. And I understand that in other cultures that is very different. I understand that in some countries they're organized into clubs that rent spaces. I understand that in some nations there's even like hobby allowance that's funded by the government to form social clubs like this, and that's how they fund some of the acquisition of spaces. And the game stores are very small and do not have play spaces, and that's a fascinating way to have a gaming community. I would love to visit a community that does things that way, just to see and compare and contrast it. But over here in the States, a lot of communities for gaming are organized around the game stores where you go to play the games. And if you make your game stores mad at you and they don't want to sell your stuff, you can't. There's not a place to play the games there. And I've told this again and again and again to people. People will not buy games that they cannot play. They will not invest heavily into playing a game that they cannot.
I'm going to asterisk that. There is a class of person who will buy and collect and or accrue games hoping to play them.
Mm-hmm.
And the balm to their not playing is just to buy more. Mm-hmm. So there is a small percent of people that are just going to buy no matter what. You
can't run a business on that audience.
Oh, I agree. And honestly, I'm a little nervous about this choice by Mantic, because I can't imagine a small game or comic book store or whatever ponying up multiple memberships a month. That just seems very like, so it does kind of feel like they're going to have to like lock in like only a couple of these memberships, you know? And so that's going to, like, I don't know about your experience. We have so many game stores here that a lot of times a store will become, this is a privateer press forward store, you know, where they play Hordes, and this store plays, you know, GW games, and this, you know, and like, so that there is like a little bit of like tribal, whatever, like, you know, people latch onto their thing, but like this feels like that's supporting that kind of mentality, and it would be interesting to see how it works for them. I don't know.
Letting the train go by.
But yeah, like in my experience, like that ends up driving away some of your customers that want, you know, the other thing. And I don't know. I hope. Do we have an idea of what that license price tier is, or is it locked? Like, is that like you have to contact them and get that information?
I have no idea. This just was released in a blog post about an hour before we went live. So,
well, it's super fresh.
They're showing off that they've got cyber rats and a big old cyber rat tank for their Veerman faction for Firefight, their sci-fi skirmish game, and more giant orc boats. These are orc boats. See, you know they're orcs because they're designed to ram into things.
Yeah. I think I signed up out of like super FOMO, but now I'm like, is it my jam? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. it does seem to be a very interesting selection because like it's upgrade sprues for models that you have to have physically, a few really cool models for games you may or may not play, and then like a gigantic focus on Armada, which is like a very niche, very cool game.
Right.
But hey, if you like Armada, it's a no-brainer. Like,
Yeah.
get all these 3D files to have an official Armada stuff. And Armada is fun. It gave me a lot of flashbacks to playing Pirates of the Spanish Main, which was a WizKids game from 20 years ago, where you got little packs of cards on very thick cardstock and then punched out and built pirate ships, and then fought against other pirate ships on the table. Yeah. So
How
that's
big were the pirate ships?
Huh?
How big were those pirate ships?
Their pirate ships were about like an inch and a half
so
long and maybe 2 inches long for some of the bigger ones. The
Okay.
Armada ships are big old beastie boys, like 4 inches long or 3 inches tall. They like holding one. The bigger ones are like holding a baseball. It's just.
But so we're not talking playable interior. We're talking this is
No,
ship scale game. Yeah.
This is still a ship, but it's
Sorry.
a bigger ship scale, which is like unusual.
You
But
say
it's big
pirate
enough-
ship, I think, Falling Star model.
Yeah. I mean, it would be interesting to play a game like there is a Blood and Plunder. That's the game that's like all about like you build one big 28 millimeters pirate ship and then also the crew that's on it. And that's been like, yeah, it's been a lot of.
I actually got a
popular
whole
lately.
bunch of those minis on clearance
Ooh.
from what's that, Miniature Market back in the day.
Do you have any news to add to the pile?
Not really news so much. No. I guess since they're kind of hidden sometimes from the public eye, if you like orcs, get on board with Heroes Infinite next month.
Yeah, Heroes Infinite orcs look really cool. They're very obviously Krobel analogs this time around, but they believe that orcs are allowed to be girls, which is something that GW doesn't.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and they're tied to Raging Heroes, so they're not just girls. They're girls.
Yeah. And but honestly, the aesthetic is very similar to the Artisan Guild orc aesthetic that they've been doing lately.
Yes.
So much so that I wonder if they shared an artist for this release.
Maybe I do like the blade style. They feel like very much like a savage. But not like it's more of a cultural consistency savage than it is like a primitive savage, if that makes sense. But I liked it. I like the vibe.
Lots of really cool mounted monsters for the
yeah. They almost look like displacer cats or something, or hairless panthers. I don't know. They're really weird looking
with sideways fangs.
Yeah,
you got to bite things to the left and right of you.
Well, it's a dental plan. The orcs don't have good dental.
Oh my goodness, I have been having the worst time printing the last couple of weeks, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because we've talked about this on the podcast. I'm going up to TLMX to rep OPR. We need some demo armies to run some games. I have a big old. I want to give away a whole bunch of promo models for people that show up, so they can have free OPR models that you can't get right now anywhere else. And asterisk, you can get them a few other ways right now, and we'll continue to be able to get them a few other ways. And then everybody will be able to get them eventually. But I'll be handing out some promo models in person, and also want to have demo models of just some of our cooler models in a display case. Like what you do when you go to a convention.
Mm-hmm.
But that means I needed to print out a whole bunch of stuff, and I've been at it all month. Like this has not been a slow to adapt thing. I ordered me a whole bunch of resin, and then that resin was like absolute garbage tier.
Didn't work. Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. And several of my friends and some of the fans of the show have been writing in like, yeah, that resin's absolute garbage tier too. And I'm real sorry, Elgu. You do great printers and do great resin, except this time. It's I hope it's just this batch, and like I've had bad batches before.
You said you were going to get some other resin. Did you get a chance to check it out?
So then I ordered some of the old reliable to get me by, and that's been great. I know that's been fun, but then my printer started failing. My Saturn, my workhorse reliable Saturn, just print failure after print failure after print failure. and I'm pulling my hair out. Like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Why isn't it working? Was it the resin? No. Was it the FEP? And so it is so frustrating in this hobby when everything is going wrong, especially when you're under pressure to get things done, and you don't know what's wrong. You don't know what. You just know that you're getting models, and they're not functional. You have pancakes on your that. You have stuff pulled off the sprue. You're just failure after failure, wasting gallons of resin, and oh boy, is it so frustrating, especially when I'm running out of time. This was definitely a Murphy's Law situation where everything that could go wrong was going wrong at exactly the right time for it to go wrong.
Right.
And so
exactly the wrong time.
So I began my journey to solve the problem because, first one, bad batch of resin. Sent the resin back. So I got a refund for the bad resin. So that was sent back. Use that money, buy new resin. And then I was like, it's okay. I'm just going to go use my personal stash of resin and to get me by, and then switch over to the new stuff.
Right? Makes sense.
Yeah. So I reached for I have exactly one bottle of mint green left. And where's my Tenacious? I swore I bought a bottle of Tenacious recently. I don't think I used it up. Who knows where that's at? It's gone. So, and one bottle of mint green does not go very far.
No, especially at the scale you're printing.
Then eventually the new resin comes in, but I'm getting platefuls of failure, and I'm like, okay, so the models I'm printing off are the same models that are in the quick start kits, so that we can I can go, hey, yeah, if you like playing with this, you can go get these models for freaking free on OPR's website. Just as a way to get people to join the game. And so those are some of our older sculpts. Maybe the supports are bad, so I ReSupport them myself.
Oh, so you were using auto supports?
I used it, because honestly, for the last little bit, especially with OPR stuff, the pre-supported stuff has been rock solid. I've just been able to throw it on the plates. All my rats have been pre-supported. A lot of my stuff that I'm getting.
Who are you?
Yeah. It was so convenient too. It's I like this life of just I need 20 rats. Let me just throw them on the build plate and have 20 rats.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. Relying on pre-supports. Maybe I should ReSupport these. I know these are older supports. But before certain things have changed. Some of these models are from 2021. In the ancient old times.
Yikes.
But nope. Even supporting them myself, that's not working. And that's when I just after a couple of failed plates of okay, maybe the new FEP is the problem. Maybe the fact that I have a new FEP, it's failing. I switch back to my old FEP. No change at all. Maybe I need to clean it. I clean the printer. No change at all. I re-level the printer. I never need to re-level the printer. These are not leveling fails. I know and can see they are not leveling fails. Those first few layers are mint perfect.
Yeah.
And oh my gosh, it's been a problem. No change at all. This is going 1, 2, 3, just going down the entire troubleshooting thing. And then I send up the flare. I'm like, these models are supported by Atlas. Go to Atlas's help. Please help me. Atlas employee called
Gondor for aid.
Yeah. Support monkey and Atlas employee steps up to the plate. Support monkey, freaking rock star. wonderful support. In the middle of the night on a Saturday, helping me diagnose these problems, and then ReSupporting old files to be beefier to print successfully, and looking at my blurry cell phone photos of the failures to try and diagnose them. And I learned I was having so many different types of failures. This was it's my printer had volunteered for a drug test or something, and they just gave it everything that was wrong all at once. I learned that there's a thing called gel state failure. I never heard of gel state failure.
Gel state failure? Explain that. I want to hear.
Yeah, so gel state failure is something that can happen with your resin, where when you immediately cure the layer, the resin doesn't, the reaction of the resin to solidify doesn't happen all at once instantly. And if you lift too soon, it's not completely solidified. And most of the time we'll be fine. But every so often we'll just shear because it hasn't completely bonded yet.
So it sticks to the plate, sticks to the film, I mean?
Yeah, you just pull off a flat layer and nothing comes with you. And that's how you can get like these random gaps in some of your models.
I wonder if I've had that happen before, because I occasionally get the weirdest stuff where it's just like eighth of an inch is clearly just missing from one model on the plate.
Yeah. And that's like the key. Like, it's one model. It's not your whole. You didn't just have the whole plate misaligned. That is ZAxis failure, where your ZAxis jams, which was also happening on my printer. And I had to basically make it get worse by repeated print fails before it became obvious that was a problem, so I could solve it. We talked about this like early on in the episode, where you've just got to, every so often you have to clean your Z screw, and I recommend doing that about once a month.
I've never done it.
You're in for some pain, some unexplainable pain in your near future.
Don't say that.
It's 5 minutes work to clean it.
Okay.
So then eventually I did find it that at the very bottom of my lead screw was like where I could not see and did not believe the thing could get to. I had a jam and it had misaligned my lead screw, which was randomly causing failures throughout the printer. So I had jail state failure and then I got clean the lead screw, make sure it was aligned, make sure it wasn't going to bind up randomly going up and down.
So did you have to open your case to get to that?
Huh? No. I just got out my little metal brush and just took the plate off the printer.
You did a
Huh?
So you did like the back side of the printer?
I took the build plate off the printer, not the housing.
Okay.
So just so that there's just the moving, the little grip that holds the print bed.
Yeah.
Just oiled it up, made it go up and down a bunch of times while I took my little steel brush and brushed it up and down to clean out all the gunk on it, and then re-oiled the whole thing, ran it up and down a whole bunch of times, and then it was squeaky clean and smooth, and then like it was jammed up, so I got the little thing lined back again.
Before.
Huh?
I said I have oiled the screw before.
Oil's good, but you also have to clean out the gunk, because the gunk is what. And then while I was at it, I oiled up the linear rails, because the Saturn has 2 linear rails, and that was great. And eventually, after going all through all of this, getting new resupported files, working with the support team, I finally got my printer working. But I'm running out of time. I'm running out of time bad. So I reach out to my friend, my friend Chris. He's also, shout out to Chris, who has made their own video game and launched it on Steam called Heroes of Speria. It's like a JRPG that's built really well. So definitely shout out if you're interested in that. Go check that out. And thank you, Chris, for the help, because Chris loaned me his Anycubic. Let me get this right. The Anycubic Photon 4K Mono. So basically the Anycubic version of the Mars 3.
Yeah, I was really surprised you sent me a picture, and I was like, what is that doing there?
And I can see why people like Anycubic, because it really is a solid little machine that when it's working, it is. I set it up with Zoom settings or room settings, and got it tuned in with my resin, so it's 3.5 seconds for my resin. I'm actually overcooking a little bit, but right now I'd rather overcook than have failures, so it's going to overcook until I'm done with this project. Then I will find the perfect exposures.
I mean, to be fair, I did run my Anycubic with no experience and no idea what I was doing, and that's why I eventually destroyed it, but it worked perfectly until then.
Right. The problem with Anycubic is not their hardware. It's just been our experience with their customer
service.
Yeah. Whereas Elgu's had amazing customer service experiences with me, and me being troubleshooting 3D printer guy for several of my friends that have had Anycubics and not very good customer service, which is why I say what I say. Anycubic, you want to counter those claims, reach out to us, or maybe start doing better, and we'll hear less complaints about it. But moving on, it's been a while since I've had one of these tiny printers, these like 7-inch screen printers, and honestly, I kind of like having access to it because it's super reliable because the FEP doesn't stretch that much, so
Yeah.
it's so much easier to get those things to succeed. When I have the once ACF film is added to this equation, maybe it won't make a difference, but also having a small print, also it uses so much less resin, so my failures are less of a hit to my pocketbook.
Less sad, yeah.
Yeah, not that I haven't even had a failure with this printer the whole time I've been using it, so that's great. And secondly, like it's a 4K 7-inch screen, so that's in the 30 micron area. So like it is crisper details, and because it is so much smaller, it doesn't need to lift as high on the Z lift between layers. So just all around, it's faster. So if I just need a handful of models for a project, it makes so much more sense to use the smaller printer than to load up the Saturn. Now, if I only have one printer, the Saturn is the answer. Because you can print small, you can print big, you can print a bunch at once, or you can print just. There's nothing stopping me from just putting 2 models on the Saturn, and I do that fairly frequently. I just need 2 models. I will put 2 models on the Saturn and make it go. I do not need to use all the build plate just because I have all the build plate.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm not printing at least 6, I feel like I'm wasting my time. Like, I have some angels I need from the next game I'm running, I think, or maybe in a couple weeks. And I started to set those models up, and I actually just didn't start the print because I was like, I only have 4. I need more than this. I didn't start the print yet. So I was basing them and stuff. I've gotten really finicky about that. Like, I want everything put together. Like, I don't want to glue anything anymore now that I can do it. So
having multiple printers has also been fun.
There is that temptation,
it increases
right?
The output. And also it means I can have multiple different projects running at once. So right now my Saturn is just like chain printing the Jetpack Sisters of Battle promotion model over and over and over again. Just big giant platefuls of this model. While the little printer is the Anycubic is just sitting there churning out little small batches of demo models that I want to put in the display case. So like I printed off the sci-fi gator with the big rocket shoulders, and our brand new, you don't have access to it yet, the Griff Riders, so like the griffins and the knights riding on top of them and their cool poses. So I'm gonna have some of those to throw up into the case.
It's the second time you've taunted me with those, by the way.
They're so great. They're so wonderful.
I guess I'll see.
And it's interesting, the support team supported them just sticking straight up in the air. So it's like you could fit like 6 or 7 of these onto a small printer easy.
Cool.
You could probably fit 3 on the Photon, and probably 9 of them would fit on the Saturn. So you could get an entire company of them going all in one go. And so like I'm basically using the smaller printer to just like print out all the little fun detail models I need. And also, I was surprised at how many I could fit on those small printers, because like when I first started, I had a Mars, and so there weren't bigger printers. Mars was it,
right?
And like I was printing entire armies on that Mars, so I got really good at STL Tetris, and I had to get those skills again, because with the Saturn, it helps, but you don't have to, because it's trivial to get 20 models on the Saturn. It's just like it's big enough that you can just throw them on there and not care that much. Just occasionally you have to bump things up close together. But like with the Anycubic, I was back to like, and then I can hook the leg through this one's arm, and that's not touching, therefore it's going to print successfully.
Fine.
And I got 15 mummies in one print bed of that, and like almost 20 undead warriors I managed to fit on the print bed. Like a whole bunch of archers and like a couple of pharaohs tossed in the corners. And so like the whole mummy army is gonna just like, it took 3 print runs of this tiny printer to get the entire mummy army printed.
It's nice.
And it's moving so fast with vroom settings that like it's like easily 20% faster than my Saturn printing the same models.
Huh. That's cool. Yeah. Although generally speaking, I just kick off print jobs when I go to bed now, so like
that helps. Like
I wake up every morning's like Christmas morning.
When I'm not rushing to get hundreds of models printed for a convention that I have to leave for in 2 days, I would also do that.
Yeah. It sounds like you're gonna make it. Yeah.
Hey, yeah. All the armies are printed.
Oh, there you go.
The giveaway models are printing. I had an embarrassing failure today that I had evidently knocked my build plate out of level somehow, and do not remember doing that. I normally don't do that, but I am rushing. You make mistakes when you're in a hurry, and I have done that. And so like a whole plate full of the sisters with the wing jetpacks just half sunk in there, like off kilter, and I'm like, yeah, that's my bad. That's definitely my fault.
Dope.
And so re-leveled the plate, and they're printing now, and I went back and checked, and I listened. I'm like, do I hear the pop? I hear the pop. That means it's working.
Let's get those angels on later. I had a new thing.
Oh,
a new scare.
What's that?
I had given myself a little bit of a break, and
Okay.
I would say it's almost a week, maybe a little bit longer even. And,
a break from what?
Printing.
Oh.
I had not printed for several days because I was printing like crazy for days and days on end. And I went in, and I've been using that cheap new Sunlu because me and my favorite cheap resin of the whatever. And on my second case of that, and I opened up my printer, and I literally thought the vat was empty for a second because I looked in it and it was just black. Like it was like super, super dark. And this was a light gray resin, right? So I was just like super confused. I have never seen separation. Like it separated into like layers of 3 or 4 different colors, like white on the bottom, black on top, some gray in the middle. I was like, this is going to be bad. This is so separated. It's going to be worthless. But I just use a spatula. I was thinking, okay, I should just dump it back in and shake it vigorously. I didn't. I just used a spatula, stirred it up.
You didn't go get the Tabletop Minions jiggle mixer?
No, I did not. I just used my little silicone spatula, and I'll say that about that cheap Sunlu stuff. It was just fine as soon as I got it roughly back to the same color. Popped it. I'd never seen separation like that ever. Like I literally thought, oh, I got some bad resin. But
see, Catlet talking about navy gray separates into clear blue liquid, and then all the pigment on the FEP. It absolutely does. It's one of the reasons I stopped using it. I printed up a whole bunch of these Puppets War Space Marines in it, and a whole bunch of fantasy stuff, and it's so brittle, even with 10% tenacious. I'm convinced that if you're doing fast APS from Seratic, you need 20% tenacious.
It doesn't surprise me. Like I used some of it when I was doing all those translucent projects last year, and it was pretty quirky and oddly like that was also when I had all the weird breaks from the vibration cleaning, and yeah, it was very brittle and weird. Didn't like it that much, but looked cool.
I'll be trying out a new resin soon. The Atlas, after hearing about my woes, it sent me a case of their resin. What is the name of this resin? I need to get it right. It's weird because it came in a bag. It's like Canadian milk.
Wait, like there's not a bottle; it's just a bag.
It's a bag with a pour spout, like a screw-on pour spout. Like it's a thick.
Okay, I've seen that. Like there was another brand that recently, Vulcan or something.
Yes, Vulcan. That is Vulcan. Oh, it is Vulcan, made by Atlas.
At the same time I said it, see, Catlet also said it.
Yeah, so they sent me a case of Vulcan that I'll be trying out, but it just came in today, so I don't have time to like clean out a printer, load it up, and then run more stuff because both those printers are currently filled with resin and marathon printing. So I'll have to wait till I'm back from the trip to try it out, because I'm worried about having all my resin eggs in one basket now that I've had that scare with the Elgu's 2.0. What do I do so definitely want to check this out to see if it's good. Hey, I'll be checking out and seeing what it's up, and I'll let y'all know how it goes.
Yeah. I want cases of Atlas resin. They should send me some. I print a lot too. Ooh, it's okay.
I thought you had that sweetheart deal with Sunlu.
Oh, it's not a sweetheart deal. That's as cheap as it knocked my what was it I was using? Rich Opto.
I'm glad. Like that rich op. Why were you torturing yourself with like the Dollar Tree resin?
Hey, I mixed Tenacious in it sometimes and it worked.
That's like putting gold filigree on a trapper keeper.
Okay, I think you just won metaphor of the year right there. Nice.
But speaking of me traveling, I will be in the middle of Michigan this time next week. So we won't be having the show or won't be having it at the regular time. I don't know if we'll be able to reschedule or not. I have to talk with Kristen to see how our schedules line up. But if nothing else, don't expect to tune in Tuesday and hear our beautiful voices talking about nerdy stuff and resin print failures.
But do expect a recap show, I'm sure, of everything that happened.
I will be at the Tabletop Meetings Expo, which is Uncle Adam's little small convention he runs. Vince Venturella, Sam Lenz, and John Nunes will be there. Ninjon. So there's going to be a lot of cool people teaching classes. Also, like a whole bunch of cool gamers, I hope. So that's where I'm going to be. It is at Oshkosh. It's the University of Wisconsin at Oshkosh.
Wait, you said Wisconsin, not Michigan, is what you said. You said Michigan this time. It's in Wisconsin.
It's in Wisconsin. It's in Wisconsin, not Michigan.
Said Michigan.
My bad, not Michigan.
You got C. Catlett excited, but
I'm sorry, C. Catlett. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We should hang out sometime, C. Catlett. All right. But if you're going to be in the area, definitely stop by and say hi. It's going to be a very tiny convention. The rooms are there, but the rooms are a former university dormitory. So that's going to be an interesting experience sleeping in a dorm again. I haven't done that in 20 years.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Also, the rooms are like $40, so that's not a problem. I'm like, for $40, I'll totally sleep in a dorm room.
Sure.
Yeah.
Not to mention, you could get some late night OPR at night because I spent more time gaming in my college dormitory than I went to college. Like, yeah, we were terrible.
And I happen to know there's going to be a lot of terrain and OPR minis I can use for that while I'm there.
So yeah, how's that painting coming?
Yeah, the paintings. I'm going to have to use the two-tone spray can. There's no way on earth I have time to paint these things and to get them on the table. I'm so sorry, gang. This whole thing has been a disaster.
I believe you.
Yeah. Part of me is like, should I just take my little portable paint case with me and like, because I'm going to be on the road for 2 days to get there. So there's going to be like a couple of nights where I'm just in the hotel room with nothing to do. So I'm like, do I just prime all these things up in zenithals and then just while I'm in the hotel room that night,
speed paint them all?
Yeah, just like speed paint, go slap chop.
I mean, it works pretty fast. And you said they're smaller scale armies, right?
Yeah. They're like the sci-fi armies are 600 points and the fantasy armies are 400 points. So like it's enough to get the demo of the game across.
Right.
So that's like 15 models a piece on the sci-fi army, 16 because I the hero plus 3 units of 5,
right,
and then like 20 models a piece on the fantasy side. I don't know. I would need like 4 hours to paint all that.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't help. I'm too far away.
Yeah.
That'd be a fun paint night, though.
It would be. Anyway, I think we're running out of steam. Anything else to shout out?
The dungeon blocks looks like it's going to be an interesting thing. I'm kind of excited about it, but at the same time, it looks like a lot. It looks very busy, and I can't decide if I love it or if I think it would be a pain.
So this is a Frontier campaign, right?
Yes. It's I believe Manuel Lepus, the same guy who does Print Your Monsters and does it's like a portal, and he does fantastic plants and fantastic portals and a whole bunch of terrain stuff. So the company definitely like knows their terrain bits quite well. But I think this is a fascinating idea because you build a grid and then you have elements you pop into the grid So it's highly customizable.
It definitely, like, if you're like a Dwarven Forge fan, this definitely looks like it's your jam. And the grid is a great way of stabilizing this stuff. I can see how it is beneficial.
Yeah.
And like seeing him live reconfigure it, this is better than clips. This is definitely better than clips because nothing makes me more annoyed than the clipping situation, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like I have a lot of that Warlock stuff. And even though it's compatible with Dragonlock and stuff, whatever, like those clips are so tight, and like I feel like I'm gonna break them every time I put something together and pull it apart. This looks much more, the hot swapping looks so effortless.
Yeah, it's basically like they made Legos, like really chunky. They made Duplos with good textures.
Yeah, exactly. That's a beautiful way of saying it. You're on point with your analogies tonight.
And it looks beautiful, and it's got the half-height walls, so I love it.
Yeah.
I do worry about storing and how you would. I do also like that they have like FDM versus resin side-by-side comparison prints.
Yeah.
I do love that they have supported both options. Oftentimes these terrain stuff is only available for FDM prints, and we're starting to get resin's prices coming down, especially if you buy the cheap stuff by the giant truckload. And then the printers are getting bigger. So I still see a future in a very near future where resin printing giant terrain is just a normal part of this hobby, because it looks so much better. Resin just looks better than FDM. And I love FDM. I love my FDM printers. But look at these side by sides, and you see the barrel is nice and smooth, and everything looks wonderful. And you look at the other barrel, and like you can tell it's a barrel, and like the details are nice, but you can definitely see the layer lines in the FDM print, because it would be impossible for FDM to print as smooth as resin.
Well, and I've already got to the point, like with the stuff I wish Cast and Play kept making, those modular walls, like those are not that big of a chore to print out in resin, and they look great. Like,
and Cast and Play admit that they were resin first for their terrain design.
Sure. Really, really looked great.
All right, so another cool thing. It's a neat innovation there, so I dig it. All right, so I've got to go edit this podcast and all sorts of stuff, and print a few hundred more minis.
Did you see Alex's comment?
What's this? Do a live painting stream and record the painting stream and release that next weekend. Maybe, no promises, probably not on that one. I would love to do it, but setting up a stream takes a lot of time, and that's the one thing I ain't got a lot of.
True enough.
In streaming from a hotel room. So just so y'all know, even for doing any No Directions or these podcasts and stuff, I am in a studio with good microphones and lighting, and the background is staged and everything to get the quality I want and feel comfortable releasing to the public. The walls are treated like this whole room was built and designed to make good podcasting happen. A hotel room is the exact opposite of that. If you've seen your favorite content creator doing stuff from a hotel room, like the sound is off, the lighting's weird. There's tricks you can do to make it work. The live bloggers are very good at that. But that would also mean, in addition to all the stuff I need for OPR, I also need to pack up a studio's worth of camera equipment, and I might get like a half an hour worth of content created doing that at the expense of about 7 hours worth of producing it.
So I'd offer to do a TikTok stream that night, but chances are it would just be a stream of me knocking over GW paint pots. But
that needs to become a competition. Like,
how many paint pots can you knock over?
Like, knocking over the paint pots needs to become a content in some way.
Well, I'll tell you, the explicatives fly, so I could get banned. It would be great.
All right, everybody, we will talk to you later. Until next time, you can find us over at printyourgames.com. And if you want to help the show out, the best thing you can do is give us a like, a review on iTunes or Spotify, or a comment down if you're watching us on YouTube, etc. that does help spread the word. And that does is the best way you can possibly help out the podcast is by spreading the word around and helping us grow to reach more folk. Until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Perram.
I'm Kristen Sowers, also known as Seventh Mastery, and don't forget to use your screen protector.